Well, hi, folks. Welcome to Sty Times. Hey, I've got my coffee. Where's my cookie? Grandma, where's my cookie? Oh, lordy, lordy. Yeah, today's topic is Grandma's cookies. Yeah. Um, I gotta say real quick, Will the Rocker was over in the chat right away today early. Um, I try to post kind of early in the day so people got all day to plan and be here for the show. And and Will, he's good. He's good. He's always there. Tim Woods, it's great to see you out there. Allie, there's my sweet granddaughter. Yeah, I talk about grandma's cookies and Allie shows up. Yeah, right. Well, her grandma, my ex-wife, she's not much of a cookie maker. She does make some, but not many. She's not much of a cookie maker. Tales of Campground Host. Yeah, somebody said cookies. Here comes Travis running in the house, right? Oh, Cinder Lou. Hello. Good evening, sweetie. Kimberly Ferris. Hi. Oh, gosh. I love seeing you guys. Yeah, makes my day. Makes my day. So I was feeling pretty chipper today, pretty doggone chipper today. I got good news yesterday. I had half a day of doctor's visits yesterday. It was insane. Hey, Kayla Ferris just come on in. So did TM. Um, let's take a look. TM says, hello, everyone. I don't really remember cookies at my grandma's house, but I do remember apple butter. Oh, yeah. I love homemade apple butter at grandma's. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, but so yesterday, I spent almost 3 hours in the doctor's office. And it's supposed to be just a follow up, checkup kind of appointment thing. And there were some concerns because I lost a lot of weight. I lost 50 pounds over the summer. Unintentionally, I didn't even try. My diet has changed so much and everything that I just lost weight and that. So family members and friends were getting concerned. Sty, that's not a good sign. Losing weight, unexplained weight like that. Yeah, you got to have that checked out. I have that checked out. So we added that to my follow-up doctor visit. Well, they're putting me. I'm almost done with it. I mean, I'm 85, 90% completely done, but they're putting me through a full cancer screening, right? About 90% of the tests all came back already. And we were going over all that stuff yesterday. Me, my general doctor, um, my regular MD, and a cancer specialist that works with their clinic there. I got good news yesterday. Everything came back negative. Everything. Absolutely everything. They had even done a couple biopsies and everything came back negative. I'm in good shape that way. I'm in good shape that way. I do have this eating disorder, and they were concerned that might have been a malignant growth or something of the sort causing this. Well, I've got a couple more tests, just a couple more, that are going to just kind of confirm what they've already found out. That, nope, not cancerous. Let's keep it that way, right? Let's keep it that way. So Sty is happy about that. I really would like to put back on a little bit of my weight. I'm down to 170 pounds. I tell you what, some of Grandma's cookies could really help me get. I'd like to put 15 pounds back on. I have not been 170 pounds in my whole adult life. The last time I was 170 pounds, I was 16 years old. And by the time I was 18, I was 185 typically and pushing 220, right in that range, 185 to 225, let's say, right in there. Well, and it stayed that way most of my adult life, except I had about a about an 8-year span where, yeah, I was only about 30 pounds shy of 300 pounds. And so yeah, there were all kinds of health concerns. All the tests yesterday that were coming back, getting all the results, and getting all that good news. I'm feeling like $1,000,000, boy. Just knowing that, oh, there ain't nothing wrong. Well, then my blood work on my diabetes comes back. I've got my diabetes so under control now. My A1C dropped enough, they took one of my meds off of my regimen. So, yeah, 2 less pills a day I got to take. So that was very, very good news, very good news. And because my blood sugars are so under control based on my diet now, I could eat some of Grandma's cookies, by golly. I could do that. I could do that. I see Step Van Dam in the house. That is awesome. It's great to see you. Hunting and stuff with J&J. Awesome. Great to see you folks. It's just awesome. Congrats on the great report from the doctor. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. There are some concerns. You know, with good news comes bad or questionable news. Part of my decision on whether I host a campground this summer or not was my health. Well, they have asked me not to. The doctor did ask me flat out, please don't host. And I said, why? I got all these great results in that. Well, there's one issue with me that they're concerned about that we're not quite sure how we're going to address it, but my heart's acting up a bit. I'm scheduled to have a stress test done, and they're a little concerned that, you know, they want me to take it real easy and just not overdo it at all. And until they're sure that everything's good with my ticker, she said, knowing if I was going to be hosting, she said, being I wasn't going to be at a campground with other, like a family member or a close friend right there with me on the campsite. And typically you work alone at the campgrounds. You're going around different campgrounds and you're doing things alone a lot. They said they'd feel a lot better if I kept myself in an atmosphere with medical aid, at least somewhere close at hand. Where in a campground, you're probably looking at a 15-minute minimum for anybody to be there to provide you any kind of aid. And with the heart, 15 minutes can mean life or death. So that it's stressing them out. It ain't stressing me out, but it's stressing them out. And now with my move, having to move, which happens the end of this month, and the things that need to be done where I'm moving to, I don't even think I'd be ready to go to a campground till the end of June with everything I got to get done at the new house. So it's kind of a bummer, so I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety over that. I'll get through it. I can camp. I can go out for a week or 2 weeks camping and stuff, and I shall do that. Oh, there's Don C. Wilkes II. That's Running Water, by the way. And he's watching us. He's watching this stream on Facebook because I'm streaming live here and there. That's Sty all over. There's Freeman James. Yeah, listen to the doc. I'm gonna, brother. Freeman James, by the way, is my brother-in-law. I haven't been able to see him in person for so long, him and my sister. Um, this summer, one way, come hell or high water, we're gonna get together. Yeah. Uh, um, yeah, it's nice. Sty Times is going to be running live 3 days a week, 3 evenings a week on both YouTube and Facebook from this point forward. On it goes, on it goes. So that's he is Running Water's watching both. There's Running Water, that's his YouTube side, and the other one is his Facebook side, which is cool. I like that. Hey, Gil Skills, how are you, buddy? Hey, Gil, he's the man. I proved to you, Gil's the man. Check the cup out, man. There's his ugly mug. You think I keep an eye on Gil? Yeah. 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 It is so nice to see you there, pal. Um, we'd like you to stick around for another 30. I don't know if I can. I know that's kind of going to be a hard request to fill there, but I give you as many as I can. I'll squeeze out as many as I can. You betcha. Um, Facebook. Oh, it shows his Facebook user because if you don't go to StreamYard and tell them you're on Facebook, it just shows as an anonymous user. But it says I'll watch in 2 places too because I can. LOL. That's good. That's good. Yeah, that Gil's cup. I love that coffee cup. His and E-Waste mics are two of my favorites. But that's the thing is when I get my new studio, which isn't that far away, I'll be in the new studio the end of December. I'm hoping to stream for the very first time from the new studio on December 30th, which is a Thursday night around the campfire. And the studio will be as established. It'll be established to the point where I could broadcast from it. It won't be finished, but it'll be there. It'll be set up, and I'll have my 3 screens and audio, cameras, everything pretty well in place. But and then it just gets better from there. Just gets better from there. But well, that was Travis over there on Facebook. That's cool. That's funny. But so anyway, Grandma's cookies, man. Let's get on to the topic here. I mean, get real, Sty. What the heck? You know, we're in a day and age right now where you just don't get so much of that anymore. Grandma's cookies aren't as special. When you ask people, when you go visit Grandma, what's the first thing you want to do? Oh, I want to get on her internet. Oh, I want to go sit with my phone and talk to my friends. Man, when I was growing up, what's the first thing you want to do when you get to Grandma's? I want to get into her cookie jar. That's what I want to do. Yeah. Grandma's cookies. There is nothing in my past as delicious as Grandma's cookies. Oh, Lordy. I had the blessing to have both of my grandmothers alive when I was growing up. I had one grandmother, Alice. She was from my dad's side. That woman had the thickest skin in the world. I mean, she came off as so gruff and rawr, 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 rawr. She was, I believe, she was mostly Norwegian. um, and she was gruff. She was just gruff. But she was, for the hard shell that she had, and it's so ornery, kind of gruff and mean, and she had a very soft heart. Now, that grandmother, I don't think anybody in the world, I haven't met anybody in the world that could make a better homemade cake from scratch. And there's no out of the box, mix it, throw a couple eggs in and some water and hit it with the mixer. No, this was from scratch. And she could make awesome cakes, and pies. Oh, that woman could bake some pies to die for. My other grandmother, on my mother's side, they were farmers. On my dad's side, they weren't farmers. On my mother's side, they were just all farmers. And Clara, my sweet grandma, she was so warm-hearted. I don't believe there was ever a soul that from the very first moment they meet her, loved her, just loved her. And boy, could that woman bake. Oh my God. Breads. Out on the farm, I'd go stay in the summers, and I'd stay for extended periods of time, at least a month at a time. And Grandma had one day a week. She's fixing breakfast. She's getting all set up. And after breakfast is done, she gets the breakfast dishes all done and out of the way so the kitchen's spotless. And then she chases you the hell out of the house for the day because she'd bake bread. And she'd make all the white bread, all the flour-based bread in the morning, all the yeast breads. In the afternoon, then she'd make sweet breads, banana bread, poppy seed bread, blah, 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 blah. Once a week, she did that to keep the household and all the breads for the week. She also had a day that was cookie day. And that's what this topic's about. Grandma's cookies, man. My grandma could whip out cookies like you wouldn't believe. She'd spend all day. She had certain cookies she wanted to make in the morning. And she'd take kind of a break during lunch, because she'd prepped lunch up for Grandpa and anybody on the farm, staying on the farm, or they're working on the farm. And everybody come piling on in at lunchtime, and Grandma would have a really nice lunch ready for you. And after everybody leaves, she'd get all the lunch. Oh, I got to stop for just a second. Get her done. Granny's in the house. I love her to death, and she knows it. And so is Rain Dancer. Oh, that's sweet. I'm so glad to see Rain Dancer here. So, anyway, Grandma would get all the dishes, everything done from lunch and get it all straightened away and then set up her assembly line again. Out come all the cookie sheets and her mixing bowls all back out there from earlier that morning because she'd wash all that stuff with the noon dishes. And she'd be ready to start again. Well, some of the cookies she made. Now, I really do hope that folks will take heed to this. Some of those cookies that Grandma makes, and you just love them. They're just the best cookies. It's some that just melt in your mouth, some that have flavor to die for. Don't count on Grandma having a written down recipe for those. Don't count on it. Old gals like that, a lot of these things they make, they're all up here. They're all up here. And a lot of them don't even think about it. They just know what to grab and throw in the bowl to make their cookie batter. Same with, if you ask them, at what temp do you bake them at? What is it? Because they don't ever think about it. They're so used to their oven, they just go over, they turn the dial to the same spot every time they make cookies. They don't even think about it. What you need to do is those favorite cookies that Grandma makes, you need to go buy her a bouquet of flowers or something, and surprise her and show up and give her a big warm hug. Say, I want to just sit in the kitchen with you and have a cup of coffee and chat. Bring a notepad and a pen with you and sit down and slide it in front of her and say, I want to talk to you about a couple of your cookie recipes. And you'll mention what cookie you love that she makes. And I bet you she'll go, oh, Lord, I don't have that recipe. I just make them. Yeah. Well, that's why we're sitting here like this, Grandma. You're going to write down. You're going to think through how you make those cookies, and you're going to write it down so that I have that recipe. Because if you up and die on me, I'll never taste another one of those cookies, ever. Some people say, oh, there's always a recipe for every cookie out there. I know. I'm 65 years old. Don't tell me that shit. That ain't true. There's 3 cookies I cannot get anywhere in the world. I have not found them yet. And I've tried and tried and I tried. I love those cookies my grandmother made so much that I pounded the internet to death. I mean, I bet you I put 150, 200 hours into just the one kind of cookie to find a recipe that would produce that cookie. Nothing. Can't find anything. Oh, a lot of things that sound like it. I've tried some of the recipes. No, ain't the right cookie. Sorry. Doesn't have the right texture, doesn't have the right flavor. Nope, it isn't Grandma's cookie. It's funny because when she passed away and I realized we didn't have certain recipes that Grandma would make. Oh, I see JCT just popped in. It's great to see you, sweetie. When she passed away, I realized that we didn't have those recipes for those cookies. And all it did was add, for me, it just added to the loss. I didn't want to lose Grandma. Hell no. She was the best grandma in the world. Yeah. But she was also, in my adolescent mind, the best cookie maker in the world too. Nobody could make cookies like Grandma. And I was telling this old gal from our church after my grandma passed away about how those cookies are going to be sorely missed. And, that old gal told me, if you could have gotten her to write down how she made those cookies, she said that would have been great. It would have been even better, though, if you would have said, I'm going to put an apron on, Grandma, and I'm going to stand right next to you, hands on. We're going to have 2 mixing bowls, 2 of everything. and you and I are going to make those cookies, and I'm going to copy you. I'm going to do it with you. We're going to make a double batch, hands-on. She said that would have been even better. And I said, you're probably right. You're probably right. That hands-on is always better. And she said, well, the reason I say that is because Grandma's cookies has an ingredient in it that Grandma would never write in the instructions. You have to be there and experience it to know what that ingredient is. And I said, well, that don't make no damn sense. And she goes, no, it's how much love you put in the cookies. Yeah, I guess she's right. A little dash of Grandma love in your batch of cookies can make them taste that much better, I think there's some truth in that. So, some of my favorite cookies that Grandma made. My grandmother had this cookie cutter that was about that big around. It was about as big around as a coffee cup saucer, It was big. It was a big cookie cutter. And it was kind of fluted around the edges. And she would make this sour cream cookie. And it was a rolled out cookie. You roll it out into a sheet, and she'd roll it till it's not quite a half-inch thick. And she'd take that big old cookie cutter and cut out those big round cookies. Throw them in the oven, cook them up, and they'd be just lightly, very lightly browned on the bottom, but not really brown, never browned on the top. And she'd do a big batch, and half the batch would be just the cookie. Boy, that's it. The one that comes out of the oven, that bugger's done. It's done. That's all you do. The other half, she would sprinkle powdered sugar, confectioner sugar over them. I've never tasted a cookie like that. I've never, ever tasted a cookie like that other than that cookie, the one she made. It's gone. It's lost. There was no recipe for it. And I had actually intended on trying to squeeze a recipe out of her to get that. But that one particular cookie, nobody has even come close to it yet. I know some family members make great sour cream cookies, but not that one. Not the one Grandma made. But by the time I wanted to squeeze the recipe out of her, it was too late, and she passed. And I remembered telling her, I'm going to squeeze that recipe out of you. And she said, oh boy, that's going to take some time, because she said, you're going to have to stand here and watch me make them, and then you're going to have to figure out how much of everything I use, because I just grab measuring cups and so much of this, so much of that. Oh, a little more of that. Maybe that much of this. She said, I don't measure anything. I just know what it takes and if the consistency is right. Oh, Lordy. Yeah, I knew that was going to be a chore, but it would have been worth every minute. I didn't get the chance. She also made this. It was a vanilla soft drop cookie with small pieces, crushed pecans in them. I never saw a recipe for that cookie, and I've had a lot of cookies that were similar, but they just did not. It was not the same cookie. Now, there's a third one that she made. I might just do that once I get settled in a new house and start working on that recipe again. I'm going to get that bugger because I got to have those cookies. But you know what? Oh, I see that Eileen Heartsight popped in the house. That's great to see you, sweetie. The It's that time. It's that time. Hard to believe a half hour's blown by. But I gotta show off my channel members. You know that. But don't go anywhere. Only takes about 45 seconds. So hang tight. And I'm going to tell you what that third cookie was that I'd just about kill for it if I could get my hands on some. I'll see you in less than a minute. Well, I don't know how many of you have in the past had molasses cookies. They're like a ginger cookie, but made with molasses, and they do have a little ginger in them for the flavor. My grandmother made two types. One of the types was my absolute to die for favorite, but I loved them both. The one that wasn't my absolute favorite was big, like that sour cream cookie I was talking about. Big cookies. And she just used a round cutter to cut them. They were about over a 1/4 inch thick and between a 1/4 and a 1/2 inch thick. They like to make thick cookies when they're homemade out at the farm, you know. Well, and those molasses cookies were, you know, bendy soft, chewy soft. Oh, like, yeah. And somehow she could make those molasses cookies where you just couldn't quit eating the damn things. You get yourself in trouble. I mean, yeah, you don't want to eat too much molasses at one sitting. Can affect the bowels. Yeah, it'll make all the other cookies travel through you quite easy. But hey, Will the Rocker says molasses cookies are my favorite. Not healthy, but very good. Actually, the molasses is actually pretty good for you if you're going to use something that's a sugar. Molasses is a good. It's a lot more nutritious than refined sugar. But all in all, molasses cookies, no, they're a dietary supplement, not a food source. But you would make those big old molasses cookies, and they're all sprinkled with sugar, you know, the tops of them, you know, granulated sugar. And oh my God, they were to die for, just to die for. But the one I love, she made these drop cookies where the batter's a lot thinner, and you just take a spoon of it and you drop it on the pan, drop it on the pan, drop it on the pan. And when those would come out of the oven and cool off, you pick them up and they're easy to handle. They won't stick to you or nothing. You bite into it and it was almost like a brownie. It was almost like the texture of a brownie, but they were molasses cookies. And she would put crushed walnuts in with that batter. So you had that molasses, the sweetness, and the walnuts. And as a kid, I remember one time she caught me heading out of the farmhouse. Whoa, 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 boy, where do you think you're going? Come here a minute. I come back in. Yeah, Grandma, what do you want? She goes, I want to know why both of your pockets are bulged out like you're carrying a watermelon in each one. What? I just got a couple things in my pocket. She goes, I want you to empty those jacket pockets on the, because I was wearing like a light jacket. I want you to empty those pockets on the kitchen table. Grandma, no. I want you to empty both them pockets. Well, I emptied the pockets. I had 19 of these nice, big, thick, soft molasses cookies she had made. 19 of them in my two pockets. I told her, I said, I'm going hiking way down the other end of the farm and back, around the cornfield and back. So I just wanted to make sure I brought a snack. It's going to be a long hike. She says, you're not, if you go down to the end of the farm and walk around that cornfield and back, that ain't going to take you any more than 15, 20 minutes. That would mean you'd have to eat a cookie every single minute of that trip. I said, well, then I think I grabbed enough. Just enough. Just enough to make it around. Because it only take me a minute to eat one of them buggers. She said, being they've been stuck in your pocket, put them back in your pockets. But I don't want you back in that cookie jar the rest of the day. Shucks. Oh, well. At least I got a good supply of cookies, right? Well, my grandma always had anywhere from 2 to 4 cookie jars, big cookie jars, on her kitchen counter. Different kind of cookie in each jar. And she'd mix it up, you know. One week she'd be making oatmeal raisin chocolate chip, or just chocolate chip cookies, or just sour cream cookies, or, you know, and there was always 4 kinds, 3, 4 kinds. Well, my granddad would have people come visit him, and he was a farmer and local electrician / TV repairman guy. So he had that business going on the farm, and he always had customers coming. It's just local folks, you know, a lot of farm folks. And a lot of these guys would stop in, they'd have coffee. So my grandma would bring them in the house, and grandma would get them set up at the kitchen table. We had a big kitchen table there at the farm. And they'd sit there, and she'd pour them all coffee. And sure enough, it never failed. One of them would say, Clara, you wouldn't happen to have some of your cookies, would you? Oh, in less than a minute, she'd have a big old plate just covered with 3, 4 kinds of cookies on it in the middle of that table. There wouldn't be a single cookie crumb on that plate when they leave. I didn't care if there was 1 guy visiting or 4 guys sitting there visiting with my grandpa. There wouldn't be a cookie crumb left from whatever was on that plate. If they weren't eating them, they're sticking them in their pockets. They came to Clara's for cookies. The hell with it. The hell with Henry, my grandfather. You know, we're talking to Henry just to get to the cookies. I knew that well. As a little kid, I knew what they were doing. Oh yeah, we're going to put up with Henry just so we can get some of Clara's cookies. You know. Oh, that old gal could make cookies. God bless her. I mean, and I talk to younger people a lot. See, to me, there's no age discrimination. I love talking to the little ones all the way up to the old ones that can't even get up to go to the pot and back. I love all age groups. And I talk a lot about how things were when I was your age. If I'm talking to some kid that's 6, 7 years old, I'll talk to him and I'll reminisce about when I was and try to compare what his life's like compared to mine, right? Back then. And a lot of these kids, if I bring this issue up about grandma's cookies, I'm amazed at how many nowadays say, oh, yeah, my grandma's always got cookies, you know. She's got Oreos and she's got these, she's got Fig Newtons, and she's got, they're all store bought cookies, name brand cookies. They're all, yeah, they're not grandma's cookies. They're only grandma's because she paid for them. And the Justin Anderson, great to see you. Comes right in, very first comment there. Grandma's cookies are the best, always will be. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I don't care how damn old I'm proof in the pudding. I going on 65, man. I'm gonna be 65 just in another 2 months. I can still smell and I can still taste grandma's cookies, man. Oh, oh God, they were the absolute best. And I'll tell you what, I found that when it comes to grandma's cookies, it doesn't matter who's grandma. If you've got a grandma that makes cookies, actually makes her own cookies, that's a good grandma. I tell you what, I'll eat her cookies. Doggone right. Both my grandparents, sets of grandparents, are long gone. Long. It's been many, many, many years that they've been gone. So when you don't have a grandma, go out and look for one. Everybody says, them old blue hairs, boy, they scare the hell out of me, them old ladies. Yeah, but sometimes getting scared of them old ladies is worth some of them cookies, you know. Put up with them long enough to get your hands on some of them homemade grandma cookies. It's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah, Justin. Yeah, right. Homemade, of course. Yes, absolutely. Grandma was also sneaky sure they're homemade. She knew they were store bought. It's the thought that counts. There you go. There you go. Well, see, and that's the thing is that there's some grandmas that just through their lifestyle and social circumstances weren't cooks. Her grandma's like that. I had a friend that his grandma, she didn't cook nothing, man. She didn't cook nothing. And everything she cooked came out of the freezer or a can, you know. She didn't cook nothing. But she found a local bakery that made awesome homemade style baked goods, and their cookies and their sweetbreads and their homemade bread, homemade style bread was so close to homemade. And that's what you found at her house. You didn't find nothing but Oreos and, you know, just plain old a bag of ginger snaps, you know. Now I'm not putting down commercial cookies. I can sit here with a bag of ginger snaps and a cup of coffee, dipping them buggers, and damn near eat the whole bag. You know, I'm not saying that don't eat that commercial. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you can't duplicate grandma cookies in a factory. And come to think of it, if grandma went out and bought them cookies so that she had cookies for you when you come to visit, she added that extra part of the recipe, that little bit of grandma love. Just, you know, it just takes a pinch of grandma love, makes a cookie taste a hell of a lot better. It really does. really does. I had steel can Schlitz beer back in the fridge, rusted. Old Schlitz beer in the steel cans, yeah. Oh, geez. The but there's a lot of things. I can do tonight's topic, Grandma's cookies. We're concentrating as much as possible on those cookies, but I could do that topic on Grandma's beef stew, Grandma's Sunday roast, Thanksgiving dinners of the past. There were things that were done and the way things were prepared, seasoned, and just the way things were done that made foods so much different years ago. We've lost a lot of that. And a lot of people think, oh no, they've gotten so much more imaginative with foods and this and that. All right. I don't care if you can come up with 1,000 ways to prepare a roast, but I'll tell you what, when my dad would prepare our Sunday roast, we didn't have roast every Sunday, but because my dad liked to cook right along with my mother. I always said, my mother's the baker. My father was the meat chef. If it's got meat in it, Ma, don't touch it. She'd take a nice big fat half-pound hamburger and turn it into a quarter-pound hockey puck that you can't even chew. My dad will take that half-pound hamburger and it's still a half a pound juicy, cooked all the way through, but just as juicy as can be and so tasty. Ma would wreck it. My mom would take these nice big pork chops and they turn into it and you go, oh my God, they butchered baby pigs. Look at that tiny pork chop. Yeah, she'd burn the hell out of them. Put my mother in the kitchen making pies, cakes, cookies. Awesome. She was just awesome at it. But TMC and Grandma's pies for Christmas and Thanksgiving, pecan pie. Heartsight misses her mom's lasagna. See, that's why I hope people take heed. If you can, a lot of us, it's too late. It's too late for us, Our grandparents are gone. For some of us, our parents are gone. We can't tap into them now. It's too late. Find out how in the world did you make it so good? So good that I turned 65 and I can still smell and taste it. And I can't find its match anywhere. How did you do that? Now's the time to ask. If you got your mom and pop, your grandma and grandpa, and you got those favorites, tap into them. Tap into them. Will the Rocker mentioning her meatloaf, his grandmother's meatloaf. My mother made okay meatloaf. My grandmother, that was the real cookie person, could whip out an awesome meatloaf, just to die for meatloaf. But Grandma's cookies, I tell you, there's times that's like, there's just times that certain smells, certain tastes will trigger one of those, what I call heirloom foods. And I can just reminisce and just like, I'd kill for a plate full of that. I would just kill for it. Now I make lefse, if anybody doesn't know what lefse is. It's made with potatoes. but it's a flatbread. It's just a flatbread, very thin, and it usually you make it round pieces. And I make lefse. I love potato lefse. It's a Norwegian dish. Um, I like my lefse with a thin coating of butter and some sugar sprinkled on it, rolled up, sometimes with a little cinnamon on it, but usually just sugar and butter. And it's got to be real butter. And I love the flavor of it. Now, I've bought lots of commercial made lefse. It just doesn't taste, it's okay. It just doesn't taste the same as homemade lefse. No way in heck. That is one thing I learned growing up and right into my adult years, because my mother, she had to make lefse every holiday, and I was right there to help, because it's a chore. Making lefse is not that's not a 10-minute job. That's an all-day affair. But I learned the whole process, and I have no measurements. I've got my potatoes, I've got my lard, I've got my sugar, which I don't put a lot in, but I've got my sugar, and I've got my milk, whole milk. I use whole milk. And I just know how much to put in the bowl. I don't even use a measuring cup, because I use a big, heavy wooden spoon. Scoops just so much potato in, so much lard. I know how many fingers full of sugar I want in there. And I just start pouring the milk in, and then I start mixing. And it always turns out identical, even though I had never measured a thing. But I learned that. You learn it by practice with the person that you're getting it from. And that's where, when you lose the grand folks and mom and pop, and you didn't do that hands-on, side by side, learning how they prepared the foods throughout your life that you just learned to love, and then all of a sudden, like I said, it adds to the loss when they pass away, because that recipe and those meals passed away with them. I take a little bit of pride in the holiday meals. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, I always put on a huge family meal for my family, for my ex-wife, my 4 children, my 4 children's children for years. I don't do it anymore. I can't. I can't. Well, for one thing, I don't have the space. And I can't even afford to put on those kind of meals anymore. I mean, a typical dinner when I'd have the whole family there ran me about $500-600 just to put the meal together. But my kids got to experience the exact same foods that I had during those holidays growing up. And they all picked their favorites, man. They all picked their favorites. And they all know how to make their favorites. But they still say, Dave, Pop, would you make this? You know, you make it better than anybody else. You know what to do. No, Pop. Yeah, right. Lefse, I've got all 4 of my children. Yeah, if the lefse's there, they're eating it, man. They never line up to help make it, but they're there to eat it. Boy, they're going to eat it. But grandma's cookies, God, I miss those. I can remember when my grandmother was, this is no kidding either, she was in her late 70s. And at that time, she lived alone in her little cottage on my mother's property. And I'd go visit her in her little cottage. And I'd walk in and I could smell it right away. And I'd look on her little kitchen table she had, and there'd be a big dinner plate with about, maybe a dozen of those big sour cream cookies that she had just made that day in her late 70s. And she'd say, "Hey, you want a cookie?" She was smart. Before she'd say that, she'd step out of the way because I'll knock you over to get one of them cookies. But there I was in my 40s running for that cookie plate like I was 5 years old. Now, when I was growing up, when we were out on the farm at Grandma and Grandpa's, and she always had 3 to 4 cookie jars packed full. Hey, Hans Rune, it's good to see you out there in the chat. Lefse, yeah, I gotta have the Lefse. Love it. But the one thing I do remember, if you want to get in trouble, get caught with your hand in that cookie jar anytime until mid-morning, the mid-morning coffee break time in the day. Anytime before that, don't get caught with your hands in that cookie jar. You had a big, because typical farm breakfast, big-ass farm breakfast. You got enough to hold you over until morning coffee break. Then you can have a cookie. Then you can go in the cookie jar. But boy, don't get caught with your hand in there before that. Same in the evening. You can have a cookie right before dinner if Grandma figures that's all you've had since afternoon coffee break. She'll say, yeah, you can have a cookie before dinner. Just don't want you to spoil your dinner. After dinner, everybody's sitting in the living room. You're watching cartoons or something on TV out at the farm. My grandpa loved to watch comedy shows, Red Skelton and cartoons at night. There was like an hour of cartoons, the old cartoons. And then there was the Red Skelton show, and he'd watch the Red Skelton show. So a couple hours in front of the TV. Otherwise, the TV was never on. You weren't allowed to turn it on. Nobody could turn that TV on except Grandpa. And that was 2 hours a night. Well, I learned quick. After dinner, it's about an hour, and then those cartoons would come on, and everybody runs in there to watch the cartoons. I wanted a cookie. I was still hungry. So I went, and they can hear, boy, you can hear, Grandma can hear you no matter how careful you are. Take that lid off. They're ceramic cookie jars. The minute you touch that lid, she knows somebody's touching her cookie jar. I got that lid off and had my hand on that jar, and she yells, "Get out of the cookie jar now." Clink. Doggone it. And I said, "But Grandma, I'm still hungry. I really would like a cookie." She said, when we watch TV at night, no cookies. You don't get any cookies before bed. You couldn't have cookies after dinner. So after breakfast and right up till before dinner, it was cookie heaven. Yeah, you didn't get in trouble for getting in the cookie jar at all. But those 2 times of the day, don't get caught with your hands in the cookie jar. Shame, shame, shame. But she wasn't one to let anybody go hungry, of course. And she'd remind me, "You're going to get a big bowl of buttered popcorn here in a few minutes." And she'd stand in that old farm kitchen with an old popcorn popper with a big crank on the top. And she'd make homemade popcorn, smothered in butter and salt, and bring everybody popcorn. My grandfather got this great big bread loaf pan of popcorn every night while he watched TV. The rest of us got these, large soup bowls full. So It's not that grandma didn't care that you were hungry. It was just not cookies. No, you're not eating sugar before you go to bed. No, it ain't happening. So there you go. Grandma's cookies. I hope you enjoyed tonight's discussion. The I love grandma's cookies. It Any chance I get, I run into a grandma. I ask her, "You wouldn't have happened to made any cookies lately, hey?" Because, like I said, I don't care whose grandma it is. If she made those cookies by hand, she added a little pinch of grandma love to that recipe, and they're going to be awesome cookies. I guarantee it. They're going to be awesome. So don't ever miss a chance to get your hands on some of grandma's cookies. Get out there and enjoy. So I want to say good night to everybody out there. It was a blast. Justin Anderson right at the end said pickled herring and crackers. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a meal for me, man. I could sit and eat a whole jar of pickled herring and crackers. Yeah, I love it. So don't forget, hey, it's Friday. So the next Sty Times is Monday. Would like to see you there. That's Monday's topic is going to be a little interesting. You watch it. You watch this little exit video, and it'll tell you what the topic is. But that one's a little interesting. That might catch your attention when you're there. I want you all to have a very good weekend. And if you have the chance, check out the Sty Shack on Sunday night at 7 p.m. for Sty Story Sunday. Yeah. I'll see you all soon, live here at the Sty Shack. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.